observations on how demand is panning out. It was a positive comment coming in from Escorts. Well, now let's move to Bajaj. The Bajaj Auto May sales came in a little below the Nomura estimates that we had. Rakesh Sharma, Executive Director, Bajaj Auto, joins us now. Rakesh, good morning and thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just take us through how May was and how June is likely to be. How many dealerships are open across the country for you?
Good morning, Lata. So May can be divided in two parts. The first half was almost a complete washout because we were still, getting to, we were in the restart mode. And as you know, that was very torturous period with all the different regulations and different multiple agencies governing the process. But I think it started to smoothen out by week 3 or so. And by week 4, almost 75% of our dealerships are open. The right comparison to assess the clawback of demand will be really the second half of May. And if we just compare second half of May to second half of May last year, then we are at about 30 to 35% level. But as we speak every day, the demand is coming back. There are places, I would say the best are places in south of India, which are agri-based, agri-industry, semi-rural, rural and semi-urban. We are all seeing almost 100% back, 100% normalcy. And on the other end of the spectrum are the large cities, big urban areas, where we are seeing almost nil demand. So in the last week, it's approximately 35% or so is what has happened. I think the rate will continue in June. It will probably now accelerate a lot. We expect that retail demand should be, in India, should be back to, in motorcycles at least, to almost 70% level in June, and we are preparing for that. In commercial vehicles, which is our three-wheelers and quadricycles, that is lagging behind quite a bit. And in June, I would still expect them to be really behind normal, probably still at about 30% level of normal.
Okay, so you're saying expect domestic retail demand to accelerate in June, and you're expecting to get back to 70% levels in June in the motorcycle segment. So that's very good to hear. What about exports? Exports have been doing better than domestic. In fact, this time as well, exports have come in at 87,000 units, which is down about 50-odd%, but not as bad as feared. How are the dispatches looking like there? Which are the pockets that have picked up?
Well, in exports, the unfortunate part was that in spite of having almost double the order book of what performance has been clocked, we could not execute it because the transport capacity was a big bottleneck and was operating more through the month at almost just 35%. And we are, of course, normal course, we ship 100 containers a day. And so it's a very, very large operation. And what we are finding is also that there are a lot of logistic issues at the port. The ships are missing their berths, and there is a big jam over there. And so it was a little bit disappointing that in spite of having a good order book, we could execute only 50% of or 60% of our order book. However, most of that is rolling into June, and towards the end, the transport capacity is also improving. So I'm hoping that June we will be able to fulfill our export requirements completely. When we look at the retail situation in the markets, as you know, most of our markets are no different from what's happening in India. There has been a lockdown, but now the lockdown is easing up in particularly fast in Africa, less so in Latin America. And if I look at retail, tracking retail, let's say week by week. So in exports and motorcycles, the retail is tracking at about 70% already in the last 10 days. But CV business is still at about 30% level or so.
Okay. Rakesh, that was fairly exhaustive and comprehensive. I wanted to know how you are looking at June and I guess, whatever little is left of the pre-monsoon period in terms of sales, considering that Mumbai, Delhi and Ahmedabad maybe are going to remain in a state of lockdown. These are the three cities that are still showing a rising number of infections. Absent these three, how much do you think you will be able to do in June?
Well, I wouldn't sort of hazard a precise number, but like I said, in motorcycles, definitely we are preparing ourselves for getting to about 75% of our normal levels of June. And I think, and that should occur keeping aside the big metros. You know, the big metros were suffering in any case, even before the COVID situation. And I think there will be a substantive rise in the semi-urban and the rural areas, driven by, you know, the good crop and the flow of better procurement prices into the hands of people, etc. So we are preparing ourselves, keeping in mind that the big metros will not be there, and still we should hit about 70-75% of normal retails of June.
Rakesh, I have an unfair question to you because, I mean, we live in uncertain times. How are you looking at how is the brains trust of Bajaj Auto looking at the year ahead? Absent a second wave of COVID, assuming that the relaxations will continue at the pace, will the year, I mean, you've just lost actually 90 days. Do you think that you can, you will bounce back and your ancillaries will bounce back, the consumer will bounce back? Give us your qualitative assessment of FY21.
Well, there are a lot of positive forces also gathering. You know, for one, as people have been saying, that there is a much better purchasing power in the semi-urban and the rural areas. And all said and done, the two-wheeler segment is or bordering on an essential category. And there has been demand which has been suppressed for almost 2.5-3 months. And that will help us see some flourish, you know, in June, July, August. However, the liquidity situation is improving. I think it would help, you know, whet the risk appetite of the financiers, and the need of the hour is to come out with some innovative products, which finance products, which allay the immediate fears of the consumer and bring them back. However, having said all this, the little bit of disappointment is that while we have addressed a lot of the supply side of things, but systematically and institutionally, we have not really stoked demand. So, as you know, the auto industry was in a decline even before the pre-COVID days. Now, all this suppressed demand and, you know, the new segments emerging because people want a safer mode of transport will help. But really, some fundamental action needs to be taken to stoke demand. Therefore, our own view is that first half definitely will be a negative. Second half, we will start to see something positive. So the orientation of the company is that let's be prepared for 3 steps forward and 2 steps backward. That's the way the recovery is going to be. And orient the product portfolio. We are going to have a negative, but orient the product portfolio towards EBITDA, towards profitability. So we are, in fact, this process had commenced earlier, and we are very firmly and decisively pointing our, rejigging our portfolio towards profitability, as that is more certain and in a scenario where the volumes are uncertain. So at every segment level, and this process had started quite some time back, and at every segment, at the entry-level segments, the whole idea is to improve the proposition and thereby attract the customers through something real, but in the process make some more money for ourselves, and therefore almost all our entry level will move to 110cc and plus other features. In the mid segment, we had the choice of introducing a cheaper 125cc, but we've not done that. We have in fact brought down our Pulsar, extended our Pulsar franchise into the 125cc, giving the customer a higher price but a much superior product. So that again improves our profitability. In the performance segment, in the 150cc plus segment, we have introduced a slew of 250cc, very substantive proposition, again to attract the customer upwards. So all these actions hopefully will drive us towards a better profitability, even if the volume scenario is slightly uncertain. That's the way we are approaching it at Bajaj Auto.
Actually, that was my final question to you, Rakesh. Are you seeing any kind of downtrading? Are customers opting for lower price products simply because they can't afford to buy some of the premium products right now? And also there is not only job uncertainty, there are a lot of salary cuts that have taken place across the board. So are you seeing customer downtrading, and will that impact your margins in the near term?
So this is an aspect for which one is really looking out for. Is there downtrading in urban areas? And through various cuts, we are examining this in the urban areas, rural areas. Is there downtrading from one category to another within the same category? But I must say, now of course the amount of data is very limited, because we are only talking about 2 weeks of resumption, which is also only at a 30% level, but the broad percentages of different segments, the higher level segment, the mid segment, and the lower entry level segment, they are still the same. They're very, very marginal differences. Personally, I believe that it's not such a cataclysmic occurrence that people will wholesale shift across segments. If there is a person who's decided to buy a performance motorcycle, they will continue to buy a performance motorcycle. They will not cop out. But within the performance segment, they may go for a more substantive value-based proposition, rather than getting attracted to bells and whistles in that segment. So that kind of adventurism will recede, and we will see people being more sensible, but not suddenly wholesale downtrading.
Rakesh, we are running out of time, but I must squeeze in one quick question as briefly as possible. Do you believe that this fear of public transport is going to lead to increased two-wheeler buying? Does the theory hold for you?
Well, anecdotally, we are already picking up conversation from some of the customers who are walking in. There is not substantive data on this, but anecdotally, we are tapping into these conversations. They are occurring. People are saying that, I'd rather get a bike so that I have assurance and safety of independent transport. So that mama has started amongst consumer groups, and hopefully as time progresses, we will get substantive evidence for this, and this will become a significant component. And just yesterday's announcement by the government
to cycle to office, to cycle to work, right? Yeah, I take your point. That's what set me thinking on this question as well. Rakesh Sharma, pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us. All the very best for the month of June as well. We'll touch base after the month. Break, and we have to